look at the flows and come back to a 20-year design horizon. So Lambton Shores, we're in about the 1,600 cubic meter a day range. That still, I think, can be refined. It's not, these numbers aren't cast in stone, but that can be refined. South Huron is around the 870 cubic meter a day range, and in Blue Water is not part of this first phase. And I like to use the word phasing because our approach is a phased approach. So all the alternatives we looked at, we did look at potential phasing. So if you want to go from the 2,500 to 4,700, there is a plan to move forward, whether it's in 1 or 2 or 3 steps, or however that works out best for the municipality or for the board. I pulled this slide up, and what this is the one of the issues that has come up through the design of this is the high seasonal population and its effect on flows. And that drove a lot of, I think, what some of the previous decisions were made, and what's happened over the last few months is they put some flow monitoring at the PS2, which is the main pumping station. It doesn't take all the flows in the community into discharge and flow doing, but it takes a good portion. And what this graph actually says to me, which I think is kind of, and it helps us out quite a bit, is this line here is what they call the average flow. So this one in the middle. And if you kind of approximate it, sorry, this heavier one is the average, daily average flow. If you kind of approximate that, that's about 7 liters a second, just kind of in my rough looking at it. And it started back December of last year. So we went through almost, we're not at a full year yet, but we've got, winter, spring, and just the start of the summer. When you come into the holiday periods, the May 24th weekend, the peak hourly flow, and don't look at these are peak instantaneous flows, but we design on hourly flows, is in at 20 liters a second, and then when you look at July, it's July 1st weekend, it's at 21 liters a second. So that difference between the average flow to the 7 liters a second to 21 liters a second is a peaking factor of about 3. Now, where that's important is the design. The previous design that was tendered used a peaking factor sort of that average flow to the holiday flow of 5.7. So what we're seeing is about half of what was used in that design, and that's borne out from flow monitoring, which I think is great that you've gone to that step, because that really gives us some good live data. During the design, I think they were making assumptions to, you don't have the data, you make assumptions. So I thought that really encouraged me to see that we've got some real information to work with. In the current design, I'm going to call it the tender design, and that's what was designed and tendered. The yearly average flow is 4,659 cubic meters a day, and as I put up before, we're currently looking now at 2,473 cubic meters a day. Now, what they did in the design, and it's perfectly reasonable, is they designed for what they call the maximum month, which is in this case the July-August time period, which is really 78, 67 cubic meters a day.
The question before we get off the peaking flows in May. That was from PS2, which is the main pumping station. The peaking flows also come from the refinery on those long weekends. Would that not have raised that 3 times, possibly to the 5?
Yeah, well, raised it some more for sure.
Just putting everything in there.
Those
the other flows that are coming the other direction aren't included in that.
No, they're not included in that, and you're absolutely right. And no, you're absolutely right.
So that 3 number
could be, could be higher for sure, and it could be up to 5.7 if you put the refinery in there and try and crunch those numbers out. That's why I like the fact they were in liters a second, so that nobody could make a leap So that design average of 7,900 cubic feet, that's their maximum month. And the reason they did that is a sewage treatment plant can operate, it can speed up and slow down, but if you keep it at high flows for a long, for a month or more, 2 weeks or more, then you start having problems. That's why you've got to kind of design it that, kind of where you see a flow that's going to be sustained over a longer period of time. We've looked at equalization to kind of to dampen out those high summer flows, which then lets us drop down to 2473, or if we were going to go to the full bill, we drop down to 56, 59 cubic meters a day. And then the other item below that is what we call the peaking factor, and both the tender design, our design, use a current, and I shouldn't call our design, but our analysis use a peaking factor about 3.4 or so. So you sort of take that 7,900 multiplied by 3.4, and we took our 2,400 multiplied by 3.4 to get the two peaking factors. But you can see there's almost a factor of 3 difference between sort of where we're at with the what was tendered versus the current design by rationalizing the 20 phasing, and then also looking at equalization and drop flow. So those were some of the things that we've been looking at in developing our alternatives and analyzing them. So we came up with a whole long list of evaluation criteria, and that's what the things that we were evaluating each of the alternatives against. And then we also then came up with our alternatives, and what they are, just going through, and I put the flows in there because we used our base case, I guess the do nothing, or what was tendered. So that's the number 1, the existing Orville process. There was also, when it was tendered in phase 1 and phase 2, and phase 2 was, or phase 1 was half the Orville as tendered. And then our third one was using the Orville process with flow equalization and value engineering. And I'll talk about what I mean by value engineering a little bit later, to kind of get that design flow down, to make everything a little bit smaller, to see if we could reduce costs that way. And then number 4 was kind of just a variation on the theme of the kind of a combination number 2 and 3, where we didn't change the size of the Orville, but we used value engineering to try and reduce some of the costs. And then 5 is kind of a hybrid mechanical lagoon type plant. And then 6 is a very much an aerated lagoon plant with some enhancements to make sure you can meet the effluent criteria. The last 2 are straight lagoon, 7 and 8 are lagoon type designs. And I've graded them out because they won't meet the current or the future effluent criteria. So although we evaluated them and looked at them, they don't meet the evaluation criteria. So we're sort of saying, let's take those off the table right now. And I'll just kind of threw these up as well, and there's some of these around the board. This is the Orville as tendered. You can see that there's 2 trains, so you've got sort of the screens, grit removal, Orvilles, 2 clarifiers, sand filters, and UV. So there's 2 full trains. The half Orville that was tendered, basically what they did is you just took off half of it. And although still building the building and the facility so that other equipment could go in fairly readily. Our modification on the Orville with flow equalization was to put a flow equalization between the screens and the Orvilles to kind of equalize and damp out those flows. And for redundancy, we put in 2 Orvilles, but much smaller, and 2 clarifiers, but again much smaller, and then the filter is much smaller than UV. And then, as I mentioned, sort of the combination between these 2 is number 4 up there.